Welcome to Heart's Home, the podcast that's more than just a bridge between the spiritual and the physical. It's a sacred space for homecoming. Here, we invite you to journey back to who you are, reconnect with your heart, and feel the resonance of your soul's truth. Heart's Home is where you're reminded of your infinite potential, guided to align with your higher self, and inspired to embrace the beautiful intersection of your human experience and divine purpose. I'm your host, Lizzie Siegel, and today, on an episode of Conscious Conversations, I'm thrilled to introduce to you a beautiful guest, Ashley Mosaic. I connected with Ashley through Instagram in the most divinely guided way. Her page popped up on my suggested feed. I wasn't even following her. And everything she was speaking about created a deep resonance within my body. I literally went, ooh, out loud and was instantly like, I need to connect with this lady. Reaching out to her, I told her that I felt that we held similar aspects of this future vision. I was so excited to chat with her, and sure enough, she got back to me really quickly, and the conversation continued. From there, we jumped on a call, shared our journeys, and discovered just how much we vibe on this shared journey of elevating human potential. The conversation we had was so rich and expansive, we knew that we had to bring this episode of the podcast to you. In this episode, Ashley and I explore the intersection of spirituality, leadership, and technology. We dive deep into her journey of self-discovery and transformation, discuss the power of energetics and intention, and reflect on the evolving definitions of success and freedom. Together, we unpack how quantum technologies like astrology, AI, and blockchain can elevate humanity, freeing us to focus on authenticity, creativity, and contribution to the collective good. Whether you're a leader, a visionary, a way shower, or simply someone who's looking to live more in alignment with your soul's purpose, this episode is packed with inspiration and practical insights to help you navigate the flow of life with intention and grace. So, grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive into this soulful, conscious conversation. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Heart's Home. I'm your host, Lizzie Siegel, and this is a beautiful Conscious Conversations episode with Ashley Mosaic. Ashley is a futurist and human potential architect who specializes in activating and guiding mission-driven leaders through a fusion of ancient wisdom, emerging techniques, and digital innovation. Ashley is going to share so much wisdom with us today and share about her journey, which has been deeply motivated and guided and fueled by kindness. So this is going to be a beautiful conscious conversation, and we're so excited to have you. Ashley, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. It's always so interesting when you have somebody tell you things back about yourself. And it's like, oh, it's an interesting experience. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me here today. I'm honored and so excited to have this conversation. I feel like, I am here because we connected, and that shows us how life works in these magical, interesting, intricate, but yet maybe also deeply simplistic ways of one step and the next step and the next step. And before you know it, you have a beautiful new connection and you have life flowing in really, really incredible ways. Every day, marvel a little bit at this whole reality that we're living in and the way that we might not recognize that we are, say, contributing to, or not pulling the strings, but the way that we are doing things to have an effect on our life, but then the ways in which we also don't realize it. So it's the idea of how can you go with the flow of life with the intention of making sure that you have a hand in creating the current, right? So if you know that you are putting the positive ripples out, you are putting the positive energy out, then it is easier to kind of just surrender and float and trust that things that come your way and where you end up is somewhere you're supposed to be.
Absolutely. That was very beautifully said. And too funny and too resonant. The other day, I was recording a solo episode, yet to be released in a couple days from
Mhm.
now, that I was sharing about the surrender, the sweet surrender to the soul. And you just mentioned that when we surrender and trust the divine integration of life, it's just the beautiful flow. And yes, we do have a hand in this
Mhm.
whole game. And now we get to dive into you and how you've actually played a conscious role in your own up leveling, in your own beautiful creation of all that you are today. So, that being said, can you please share a little bit about your spiritual awakening or life journey? What was the catalyst or aha moment for you?
There's been a series. I think, the idea of awakening, there's the series of awakenings, but also it's a series of softenings. From as long as I can remember, I've had these really big ideas. I remember being very, very small and having these, what seemed to me like these really simplistic ideas, but then I would share them and I would kind of receive a response as like, "What? Why are you even thinking about that?" Or like, this kind of is off. And I was like, so then I think partly by the way that I was deeply sensitive, and I think like most spirit, we'll say many people that are very feel very spiritual and have had this kind of connection. There was a little bit of a tribulations in the childhood experience, so it made you a little bit more aware of your surroundings and all of that's going on. But then the simultaneously would bring me more into my own little world. So I was deeply sensitive. I had a lot of really big ideas and I had a lot of anxiety as a little kid, and partly because I felt like I had so many ideas and so much this, whether it was like an animal or a person or this. And I had this idea from a young child that in everything had, I'll say it as I had said it as a little kid, that like everything had feelings. I realize now what I meant was that everything has consciousness, right? The idea of seeing a plant get hurt would like kind of hurt my like my heart a little bit today the same way. But when I was a kid, it would really upset me. But then that would feed right out to also to objects and things. And I thought that everything had feelings. So it's deeply sensitive. Then I also had a stutter when I was a kid. Having a stutter put me into this little bubble where I felt I wasn't able to always articulate or speak, but I was absorbing. So I was taking in so much information, realizing that information doesn't have to just be spoken or something that you hear or something that you read. It's like taking in information from everywhere. It's taking the information from, as long as I can remember, feeling this sense of, I suppose, exciting, but it also felt like overwhelmed. And then it also felt a bit like something might be wrong with me because other people don't seem to be taking any of this in. And I was actually kind of felt sometimes like I was struggling with it, just to kind of like find my place and my balance in the world. And I remember then I had this feeling of when I was young of like, oh, it's not good to be this sensitive. It's not, I didn't know how not to be. I feel like for the moment of like my teenage years, or maybe like focus less on how I felt, but then just follow my curiosity. And then I started studying things like universal laws and astrology. Oh, one quick note, when I was a kid, I was fascinated by the stars. I felt like there was just like a message in there, and I was just fascinated by it. Then, but I kind of just like, then I kind of wasn't too deep into anything with the stars, astrology throughout probably from like age, maybe like 15 and for like 10 years. But in high school, then I was studying things like universal laws and things like manifestation and thinking it was so cool and intellectually getting it, but struggling to actually put some of that into place in my life in ways that felt meaningful. However, I would recognize when I would do it in small little ways, but I realized where I still felt this kind of constant tug. If I did feel like maybe I did manifest something, I would then feel almost like guilty or bad because I'm like, oh, but now what I took this from somebody else who did, and it was still this like, oh, like that programming was still in there. So I realized like, oh my gosh, like not only am I this way, but I have to be this way and I don't get anything. Like this is terrible. This isn't the way I want to be. So I was like this process, but I had all these like blasts of consciousness there. Like, okay, this can't be how it's supposed to be. This can't be how it's supposed to be. And then throughout my 20s, I was starting getting a little bit more into astrology. I was moving across the country at different places, trying to like feeling like I was trying to like get my life together. Like I'm going to go do like adult things and like go and be somebody and quit being so sensitive. And it led me on some pretty interesting adventures. I was living in San Francisco. I helped run a mayoral campaign in San Francisco. But I still felt this like kind of like always like having this glimpse of like what's going on behind the scenes, right? And if you're in politics, you're like, oh, wait, this seems like there's some interesting things going on here that, but I felt like I was seeing things differently than other people were. And then I went to a really bad breakup, and then I moved then I am getting on reality TV. And I feel like when I was on reality TV, I had this another like blast of consciousness where I realized this that I'm doing right now feels like so fake. Like I always kind of feel like not that I'm fake, but like there's this constant like pretending that I have to do in life just to not like to kind of like be like, hello, human. And then was when I would get overwhelmed with that, like constant trying to feel like I'm pretending, but then I'm like, I get overwhelmed again. Am I not good at being human? Maybe. And I'm like, well, what's the alternative? So then I ended up moving out to LA, more of that experience of like, I just feel like I don't fit it anywhere. I don't fit it anywhere. It's just like a really weird way to always feel. And then why do I feel this way? And that's when I got really deep into astrology. I didn't even know about that. So then I started studying astrology, and it was like I picked up this language that's like I knew before, that I knew it before. I've never like learned anything as quickly as I learned that. I'm not somebody that can just like necessarily, like, if I'm really interested in something, sure, I can read a book quickly and piece together interesting things. But it was something about that it was like I was like absorbing it. And then I remembered how when I was a kid, I was so fascinated by the stars, but I didn't know what it was in that way. I just knew like fascinated by it, by them. I had a telescope, all that kind of stuff. And during the same time, I run this kindness community called Kind of Kind, and I was always focused in on like, wanting to spread kindness and showcase there's so much good in the world, and through the lens of frequency, be able to pump out some good vibes. And while I was doing all of that, I was always aware of the things in life that I thought could be different. It was like those big ideas when I was a kid of like, doesn't seem like that's right. Sure, certainly that's not how it actually is, right? Certain things, just about like things that I thought maybe could be kinder in the world for people and for animals and things like that. So when I was trying to really think of how can the world be elevated on different levels. I already knew that consciousness piece. I recognized as an adult that the consciousness element, that everything has this life to it, this form of sentience to it. And then it was actually before that was when I had first heard about blockchain technology, and specifically, Bitcoin, which is the first form of currency on the blockchain. And it's like I immediately had this full-bodied resonance of like, I see what this can do for the world. I see what this can do for the world in terms of the transparency, in terms of more fairness, in terms of more of a balance of power potentially is these types of like systems and technology can allow for us to have in the world. And from there, I just got so deep into from the astrology and then the astrology and the technology. And I was able to have this way to fuse actually both of these two, of just seeing how the as above, so below was playing out. And I could see it in the astrology, these astrological transits. And I was like, this can't be. I can't really be seeing this as I am, but it was. sure enough, these aspects that would signal something along those lines. And I'm saying something along those lines. So, for example, it was when planet Uranus was entering Taurus. Planet Uranus represents revolutionary change, this energy of disruption, technology, the energy also of awakening. It enters a sign and it stays there for about 7 years. And you can look back. So it's one of those outer planets, so it moves slower, and you can see when it moves through the signs the effect of this kind of area of our life as a society or a collective that seems to experience this disruption. So prior to that, it was in Aries, and Aries tends to be focused or associated with the self and identity. And in many ways now, that aspect Uranus and Aries is associated with the rise of social media and the selfie and all of that kind of stuff of more of a, hey, how do I share myself with the world? And then now, when it was entering into Taurus, I was already pretty deep into that world. But when I saw that this was happening, I said, this has to mean that this innovation, all this is coming into play in the sphere of securities, finances, which obviously we see that I feel like I'm tapping into something here that is not what we seem to be conditioned to believe is something that is possible. And that got me asking a lot of questions and digging even deeper into the history of these things that we're thought to believe are occult, and how sometimes there's even, these negative connotations with anything that's hidden or unknown means it's bad, when there's also the potential that it's just suppressed, not because it's bad, but because there's power there, or there's so many different reasons, right? But while I was feeling so connected to the world, I hadn't quite yet figured out how to be connected, like, with myself, because I was realized a lot of my conditioning was really focused on not being weird or trying to make sure everybody else was okay, that I never really felt comfortable just being me and like in my own body. So even though I felt connected to all this magic, I still felt so out of place. And one of the things in my natal chart is I have planet Uranus directly on the base of my chart. You have these 4 different angles in your chart. I'm sure a lot of your audience here knows what the IC is, but I have Uranus directly on there. So a way to look at that is this kind of energy of a lack of stability, a lack of security, but it can also be right awakening, revolution, and all these things. But certainly my life many times feels kind of like a rug pull, oftentimes. And so while I was building out of my trying to build my security and trying to really do things to make myself feel secure, inner and in this reality as well, I kept having these things that would happen that felt like it just made it really difficult for me to ever be secure, to ever just like, man, can I just like take a breath and like, can I have like these things that I'm doing actually be worthwhile for me and like actually work out for me? It was when I had Pluto. Yeah, I had Pluto cross over my sun. And this is another big aspect that not everybody, a big transit, not everybody gets it, but you, as a fellow Capricorn, you did. You said you must have got yours around, what, 2009, and you had this happen. So it tends to bring up a lot of the subconscious, death and rebirth, the stuff, the experiences in your psyche. Maybe I call it the creepy crawlies that we might have in our subconscious, right? These different components of ourself, they just need to be alchemized and need to be integrated because they're there. It's the idea, if you have something what you think is scary in the closet and you never see it, you just know it's there, but it's always wrecking stuff. You can't do any, it's wrecking everything, versus when maybe it comes out and you deal with it, or you open the closet and you're like, bro, what's happening? And you do something with it. But my Pluto transit, it was the Pluto Saturn conjunction, it was that exact conjunction, which in many ways was the marker of 2020. But this energy, we can see, was just kind of, this energy was unleashed. And that happened. And right when that happened, there's somebody in the past that I'd helped them out with some things financially, and they stopped paying. And it was like I had all of my finances, everything that I was trying to build for myself. It's like, once again, it was the rug pull. But this time it wasn't just the rug pull, or I was just like, oh, stumble. It was like I had to let myself just like kind of just surrender, is like surrender to this transformation and surrender to the idea that we can run or we can hide from it. We can or keep that shadowy monster in the closet. But I realized how much that this incident that happened, how much it was connected so many other components of my life. And this is what got me to recognize the way in which our own energetics and our own beliefs have a way of not necessarily intentionally, but unintentionally having a hand in keeping us however we maybe think we need to be, whether it's from a place of self-worth or a place of safety or a place of fill in the blank. So this led me on this additional piece of my journey of how do I alchemize? How do I integrate and how do I allow for myself to elevate internally? And this has really felt like the most recent piece, I'd say, of my work and of my own life. And this is why I say I really do this. It's the energetics, and then it's this energy of innovation, and then of foresight is helping others. But I first had to learn how to help myself through that to be able to own who it is that you are, find your uniqueness, and then not manipulate, but it's work with that to be able to intentionally take these components of yourself and work with them into a way that it not only serves you, but it serves others. So it was a very long answer there of my journey. And I feel like it was just so many components, but realizing that I wasn't able to like escape myself. I was doing all of these things to try to escape myself, and I couldn't escape myself. And then I had to learn how to make that not be a bad thing. And I think that's probably the work of a lifetime. I think that's what makes it beautiful. And I see this similar journeys in so many people of rather than owning and expressing from a place of all that you are, worried about all that you're not. And the idea that we will never be like a better version of somebody else. We will never be, we'll always be like an off brand version of if we try to be anybody else. And we are given all of the components to do and be and create and express from a space of wonder, like wonder. We have to be willing to surrender. And even as I say surrender, I always feel a little bit of resistance to that word. But at the end of the day, it's like always, that is a constant. And I'm always reminded that even when things feel really scary and they feel really rough and they feel really, it's like, it's always still okay.
Thank you so much for that beautiful answer. So much in what you said. And so I'll just take another breath. And there's a few pieces I want to pick out of there before I continue asking these other questions I had prepared. So just a moment. I want to offer you this and all of anybody who comes across this. When you said that even in the idea of surrender, there's a little bit of resistance. And intuitively reading into that, I would imagine because your definition of surrender is not a true definition of surrender. Because what surrender, I think a lot of people think it means, and I used to think this too, is that it means giving up. You think about waving the white flag and an army might be giving up. But surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to the natural current and flow that is you, that is your unique frequency and essence, that is guided by your highest self. And so when we can understand what surrender really means, it's giving into the control that you already have. We can then loosen up and stop having to use our physical ego mind to control everything, because we already have the control from our higher mind, from our subconscious mind, from our unconscious mind, from our soul, from the collective guidance. And so it's so beautiful because then we don't have to have as much resistance when we realize we're only resisting our natural self.
Mhm.
And there's nothing to be afraid of when we keep, I mean, at first there's stuff to be afraid of because we have this conditioning, like you said, that we are afraid to find out what's in the closet, what's in the shadows. But all you're going to find there is more of yourself. And you never have
Mhm.
to be afraid of yourself because it's you. And so hopefully that is just a little bit of a reframe on how we can think about surrender, because I know it's been a huge part of my journey. And it's really what allows me to trust, surrender, and leap again and again and again.
Exactly. You just find more of yourself. So how do you allow for all of yourselves a spot at the dinner table, right? How do you allow for that? And that,
How
I feel like that as well, the energy of like wholeness.
And I also always ask myself, how do I not? How do I not allow myself to be fully me? We do often prevent ourselves from being fully ourselves. And then I ask, like, how are you not allowing yourself to be all of who you are in all your glory? Because if you're hiding parts of yourself, you're not being true to yourself. And you're worried about other people rejecting or abandoning you when really you're rejecting and abandoning yourself. So I guess I'd
Mhm.
rather just allow all of me to be, and the people who are meant to be part of the journey at the time, they will stick around.
They always get it. They get it. They see you. And that's been a huge part of my journey as well, is that, and recognizing that if everybody is a reflection of ourselves. They are, whether or not it is truly in the fractal of consciousness aspect, or it is the idea that the empathic parts of our brain will pick up on what maybe is going on in somebody's mind at that time. So if somebody at that time is, they're feeling really uncertain and unsure of themselves, when somebody is talking to them, it's not necessarily you're not evoking this sense of confidence that somebody else is going to be, I don't even know what that person said, but I believe it, right? So instead it could be now because you are from a space of feeling, oh, I don't know if no one's really going to believe what I'm saying, or these different things now I'm discussing, other people are now picking up on that and they're mirroring and reflecting this back to you. So it ends up just being this never ending loop of meeting fragments and fractals of yourself in others. So the idea again of just whether it is you are the version that is in the closet that you feel is this like creating problems for yourself, or it is the you that you are meeting in a stranger or is being reflected back to you in a loved one. And it's also the recognition that it's not always in these parts of ourselves that we don't like, on the beauty and the love and the kindness and the sweetness and the help and all of that that we see in somebody else. And it's just being this the idea of really recognizing the hand that we have in creating our own life personally, but then now as a collective.
Yeah,
It's just
the constant
a whole bunch of ourselves meeting each other all the time and having these relationships and experiences with ourselves. And sometimes they're wonderful and sometimes they're don't feel wonderful, but we later on realize that the purpose, the intention that they had was to move us forward and to ultimately bring us more into a space of wholeness. And I think that's a huge component to recognize as well too. If the part of yourself that you maybe you don't meet, you'll meet it in others. And if you feel like you are not meeting it in a way that is empowering, maybe you'll meet it enough times until you're like, what? Or what? And then that part of like my own little pie feels empty, and I'm meeting it now, in somebody else. So how can I learn from this experience so that I feel more whole and am more whole? You just realize it was as Ram Dass said, right? We're all just walking each other home. It truly is.
towards the light. Oh, you mentioned also around 2008, 2009. What significance is that in terms of the astrology? Could you?
That was when we had Pluto first enter Capricorn. So Pluto represents its transformation, it's the revealing. And I like to think of Pluto if say you want to remodel your kitchen, and maybe you just want to remodel like the backsplash tile behind the sink. You want to get some new tile back there. Pluto is like, okay, cool, I'm going to tear the whole house down. No, I just tile. I don't even whole house down, right? And you end up recognizing, oh, well, now that it came down, I see that, the furnace needs this needs that. So you see there's this intention to it, but it is this transformative energy. And Pluto first entered Capricorn in 2008. And when we look to Capricorn, what Capricorn represents in the zodiac is the energy of, it is authority. So it's associated with government, big business. It's like the daddy energy of that energy, right? It's like the authority in our life. So during that time was when we had Pluto enter Capricorn. In the United States, we had some bank collapses, and there was certain things showcasing just where there wasn't necessarily full transparency. Kind of certain things are going on that the people maybe we don't know about, or that, and that kind of came to the surface during this whole period. So for these 16 years, it's been a lot of revealings and changes in power and structure and just these hierarchical structures in our lives, but then also in the collective and in the, in the United States, but then also in the world, as everything is connected. The world powers and a lot of shifts, tremendous amount of change. So we can see Pluto in Capricorn during that period from it left on November 19th. Pluto is now in Aquarius, where it'll be until 2043. And now it's kind of, we are as a collective moving forward I could say this in a way of like from the ashes of the old, but it's also just recognizing that it's in many ways, I believe we are shifting from a more tribal and hierarchical structure society to one that's a little bit more dispersed, looks more kind of like a web. So that transition from top-down structure to a dispersed web it seems like it's very, possible that could look something that somebody would consider to be like a collapse or something that's, seems to be scary or destabilizing in ways. But in reality, it's just this natural progression in society as a collective, these different transitions in these periods. But so during that time, knowing that you're an early Capricorn, right? So that would be right around that time, probably 2008 to like 2010 would be around that period when you had Pluto cross over your sun. And that tends to be an energy that really people have almost this like before and after in their life. And it's not always an immediate though. That's the thing, because Pluto can be like this like wrecking ball. But what I guide clients through is the awareness of, I think that this journey of which to the individual may seem like this reckoning, this destruction, this like all of this drama and all this stuff, it can feel like that, or it can feel more like, okay, you're being guided to move differently, or you're being guided to have an awareness of something. And you have to now have an awareness of this aspect, this fragment of yourself that was having an effect on you, but not in a way that your higher self realizes is for your growth. So it's almost made manifest in your life for you to have an awareness of. So at a collective level, I think we've experienced more of that. It's like, hey, wait a second. Hey, wait. We've had versions of that just as a collective, like that doesn't seem right. And which I feel like is like my child brain when I would learn something as a kid and be like, can't be right. That can't be right. No way. Like that kind of stuff. So I viewed like this, so much of this through this like childlike essence of just like, we're all just like little kids being like, hey, that's not right. But as an individual, when somebody's going through that, I guide them to recognize that this doesn't have to be something that is to be feared or that is scary. It's just the idea of what do you not have? Like what part of yourself are you not allowing to the table? Because during transits like this, it can be more like, oh, all of a sudden that like, in the closet now got like out of control. They're out there now. It's creating these different things that feel like problems to you, but it's realizing that there's power in there. It's power in there, but it's an inversion of power. So Pluto can reveal the inversions of power in our life. Do you feel like anything like that happened to you during that time?
Remembering this, we've talked before, so I'm super sensitive to the energies, and when anything is happening, I actually know about it a lot before it's really happening for the rest of the collective. That's how I operate, and there's a big shift happening right now, and the Schumann resonance has been off the hook for days, and I've been feeling it so deeply. And then I checked it. And I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Why? And I noticed that I was feeling all this energy this week that I'm like, it's not that it's not mine, because I'm agreeing to feel it. So I'm owning some of it. But I know also that it's a lot of the collective energy. So it's a lot of the upper chakra energy. And so if you're not grounded in your lower three chakras and really feeling safe and secure in this world, then these things are kind of hard to navigate. However, because I do a lot of grounding work and I'm quite grounded in this physical reality, I can experience the collective flow. But also because of my human design, as you know, I have an open crown and anja center. So all this information flows through me. And as I was walking home today, I was remembering, like, because it felt a little bit like, why is everything falling apart, even though nothing is actually falling apart? But I was like, what is this feeling? When was the last time you actually were thinking inside your head, why does it feel like everything's falling apart? And I was transported back to a memory from 2008 or 9. I was dating some person at the time. I was in my young 20s. And this was a serious relationship, but it didn't end up working out. And it literally felt, why is my world falling apart? And after that period of time, by 2010, I had moved across the world. And that really started my journey of deep understanding of myself and that unconscious design side of me and who I am in this world. My moon sign is Sagittarius. And so this is the mover and the shaker. And so
I was just going to say, but you have a lot of Sag in your chart, don't you?
And that part of me, like, was this huge part of me that I needed to know and experience, because it's the fullness of who I am. And so I was very aware of my conscious part, and now I became very aware of my unconscious part. And that has been such a wild journey. And now that Pluto did move out of my sign just a couple weeks ago, I've already felt like a big shift in energies, and that's fun and exciting. And I also just noticed like those bits of old versions where you're thinking, oh, well, maybe this will, waiting for the other shoe to drop type syndrome. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. We don't have to worry about that. So it's been fun.
It's a reminder of that once it's really, it's like, that's why it's the somatic, the body work is really important to be able to remind like your human vessel, your human vessel that like, it's okay to be in your body. And I think that's where a lot of, especially people that are, I would say, I'm always mindful of say, especially spiritual people, because I believe that we all are spiritual. We are all these things, but it's whether or not maybe the awareness that we have around that, or the amount that we have like invited that into our lives. But a lot of times I recognize a lot of people right there, especially that will, as adults, they're like, yep, this is the way that I am. And I've kind of been like this, since I was little. And oftentimes this great sense of awareness and attunement to energy, I found it's, this comes with this sensitivity, but then there's a lot of what now people will say is things like, it could be like dissociation or like getting in your head. It's because you're not in your body. But when you are just in your head, like when I was young, I had this visual. This is how I felt I was. It was one of the things that when I learned human design, I was like, oh my gosh, this is how I've always felt. I would have this, like, I felt like as a little kid, I would be trying to like do things, but I felt like I would be like in my head trying to be like I was like trying to control a little machine in my head of like doing this, and I couldn't. And I would get so frustrated of like, why am I not like moving fast enough? Or why am I this? Am I that? Am I that? And it was like, and he wasn't always in my body. I was just like, whoop. I would go into my head and like taking all this information. And it was like, oh, my belly would hurt if I dealt with my feelings. And oh, I get a migraine. And it was just like, that's how I felt. It was like the sound of my childhood. It was like, ah! I felt like in many ways of when I look back on it. But in reality, I have great reverence and respect for little Ashley. But it's as an adult to be able to, what we can say is, like make things happen, right? In this reality, and feel like I am having a more intentional hand in the creation of my experiences. I've had to learn how to be in my body, not just put all the energy up here in my head and be stuck in calculations. And as somebody who gets an incredible amount of data and insights from the stars, what I have, I've learned in my own life and what I with my clients on is recognizing that, like, yes, there is kind of these things that are being signaled, But for example, people will ask me like, "Oh, when am I gonna get married?" And it's like, well, most people say like, I'm gonna say this with, I'm gonna hold your hand while I say this, but like, you probably need to leave your house, right? So it's that energy there of like, the way you still have to be in your body for you to work with these energies and for you to have this human experience. So to be in your body, and that somatic work is so important. And that's like such a huge key that when you hear people like just learning about things like manifestation, I remember I would hear people discuss the idea of you can just purely manifest just in your head. You can just think it and you can, wish it and you can feel it. And I felt like this piece that wasn't always discussed, at least from my experience, is if having these things in my life doesn't feel safe for me in some way, almost an aspect of myself will always create these experiences that will keep me the same. So while my conscious brain was like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Also, my conscious brain was the one up here that was telling me, like, trying to control the ship, go and do things, go and do things. But this other part of me was like, it's literally not safe. It is not safe to do this. It's not safe to do that. You need to stay in your bubble. So it's that somatic body work to actually lay like a new reference point in your nervous system so that your mind and your mind can be on point. You can set in all of these goals. You're able to use your foresight and your intuition to be really perceptive, but you have to be able to have that connection with the body.
Yeah, absolutely. So the work that I do with people is about having that integration,
Mhm,
because you not just be in the body, but it's
mhm,
understanding that mind approach the
mhm,
superconscious, the subconscious, the conscious mind, and then being able to get out of our head and into our body to live the physical experience, because the language of the physical reality world is action. And unless we're willing to take the action, then we're not able to
mhm.
realize, see things with our real eyes in our physical reality world.
Mhm,
And it took me years and different combinations of practices until all these things finally landed. Because the first step was getting out of my head and into my body, instead of just living in anxiety up here and living in the future or the past, which are all creations of our projections of worrying about something that isn't even happening. So getting into
mhm,
the bodies and regulating the nervous system. And then for me, a big, like, I was taking lots and lots of actions and aligning subconsciously, and that was working really, really great. And then there was that missing piece for me, where I was still trying to understand how science and spirituality were blended. And I knew that they weren't inseparable. Like, I always knew that at such a visceral level. And so when I started really diving into the part of me that I was like, I don't know enough. I have to go to the experts, because who am I to be an expert? But then I realized that that's ridiculous, because I actually am an expert in my field. And it's taken years
mhm, mhm,
getting to this place where I'm like, just
mhm,
because you might be at this and you might be at that doesn't mean I'm not an expert in my field. And so when we get to doc, like, there's doctors in the world who actually are doing medical studies, but beyond medical studies, they're tapping into the spiritual. And these people have been so great to help me understand, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton. They've been key component players in understanding. We just come at it from a different perspective. And just like you're saying with astrology and human design, and even the things like blockchain technology, it's all interconnected. And I love it so much, because all technology and all layers of reality are modeled after spirit and us
mhm,
all together.
mhm,
So thank you
mhm,
for that. Before we started recording today, I was sharing with Ashley how the beautiful methodology that I work with called Psych K could even help with things like helping her cut her dog's nails and reperceiving that experience as a very challenging and almost traumatic one into something that's done with love and ease and grace. And Ashley was sharing with me how interested she is in Psych K and how she's really looked into it and explored it before. And that was so exciting to me because while it's not a super well known method, it's becoming more and more popular. And what I love so much about Psych K is it lets us understand that it is our perception of the experiences in our lives that actually are shaping the way we experience our lives. And so when we can reperceive our experiences, we literally recreate our world. Psych K is a process that has truly changed my life in ways I could have never even imagined just a year ago. For 6 years, I was stuck in some cycles of self-doubt. And while I had worked with other beautiful energetic practices and healed myself on the physical level, the spiritual level, and the emotional level, there was still a lot going on in my mind, in the mental layers. When I found Psyche, I realized that I wasn't really understanding all the layers of the mind and how they work to create the experiences that make up our lives. I knew that I was the co-creator of my reality, yet I hadn't quite put all the pieces together to understand how I was doing it. For years, I was stuck in cycles of self-doubt, unable to truly take the aligned and inspired action steps that would allow me to fully step into my power. I was stuck in cycles of self-doubt, and I was unable to take the inspired and aligned action steps that would actually allow me to step into my highest self. Psych K became the permission slip that really and truly worked for me and allowed me to reperceive my experiences, to transform my traumas into triumph, and to use my wounds as wisdom so that I could move through life in a very different way than I had been moving before. Psyche was that permission slip that I used to break through the limiting beliefs and all those things blocking me from helping me self-realize. It helped me completely reframe how I see my reality and let me know that it was through the aligned and inspired action steps that I was truly co-creating with the universe. Psyche is so much more than mindset work. It's a powerful process that works directly with your subconscious beliefs, your conscious mind, and the superconscious guidance that we're always connected to. It helps you dissolve limiting beliefs, align with your higher truth, and create real and lasting change in your life. What's incredible is that when you shift from this place of alignment, every action you take feels divinely guided. And it's no longer a struggle. You actually get to take these action steps with ease and grace and even excitement. It's like the universe is conspiring in your favor to bring your dreams into reality. And I always share that this word is called pronoia, when the universe is conspiring in your favor. And it's the opposite of paranoia, when you think that everything is against you and everything is out to get you. Pronoia is the antidote to paranoia. If this resonates with you, I invite you to work with me. You can book a single one-to-one Psych K session or commit to a package for deeper transformation over time. And if you're ready for a more comprehensive journey, consider joining my 8-week Illuminate the Shadows program. Psych K is woven into this program, and you meet with it multiple times so that you can have a taste of all the modalities I work with, not just Psych K. This program is designed to guide you through the shadow work. It includes subconscious reprogramming, somatic energetics, energy healing, hypnotic journaling, and embodied scripting. to create the future vision of you that you desire to become. This program helps you not just to illuminate the shadows, but also to integrate them into the light so that you can truly live an embodied life aligned with your highest vision of yourself. If you've been feeling called to break through old patterns, shift your beliefs, and step into a new reality, Psych K could be the exact tool that you need. I would love to support you on this journey. For more information or to book a session with me, follow the links in the show notes below or reach out to me directly through email or Instagram. Let's take those inspired and aligned action steps together, knowing you're always divinely guided and supported. And when you're doing the heart work, it actually gets to be really simple and full of ease, joy, and grace.
I love that integration so much because like I feel like all that we're ever trying to do, right, is come into wholeness within ourselves. But then when you recognize this idea that everything is this great interconnectedness of it changes the way you view everything in life, the way you view yourself, the way you view that person, the way you view, and that's where I recognize this idea that we all of us want similar things. We all want similar things. We all want to experience, we want a security, abundance, love, fulfillment. So it's the idea that we can all have all of those, but we need to, as we need to be intentional with our, it's almost as if we all need to begin kind of turning our energy one way versus maybe the other way, where it was keeping us a little bit more, we can say, is like stuck kind of in the mud, or where you feel like you're in these old patterns and things are the way they are because they've always been that way. And it's like, don't even bother telling me anything new. I'm already trying to deal with. And it's like, we can really have this entire shift, but it's this great unlearning, or while it's the simultaneous remembering. But that resistance piece can come in when you all of a sudden there's like a belief and a new belief, or like they're like butting heads, and you're like, how can this work? And then that's that, like that can easily be something that takes somebody way off course, or they have more difficult time like flowing through it. But when we think around like all of us rising up, maybe it's not necessarily that they're bumping heads, but it's like, how do we elevate our level of consciousness so that all of a sudden we're like, oh yeah, no, this does work now. Right? This does work now. Before we thought it had to be like this, but raise up. And now it's like this collective raising. And we think, well, what's this raising of consciousness? It's going to be your beliefs, your awareness, the opening of your mind. I'll guide people through the idea of just 1% more a day, right? I'll say, even if that looks just like suspending a little bit of judgment, of just like, I don't know how that works, but I am open to that being true, right? Something like that, when you're like, I don't understand anything that works. There's a part of me that thinks that sounds crazy and totally fake and made up. But you recognize, so would you like for that to be true? People are typically, well, of course. You're like, okay, well, how could just 1% more of yourself? And typically it doesn't have to really be around focus in on like believing. It's just on like suspending a little bit of that judgment that has you be like, nope, I've heard no, that's not the way it is. Suspending a little bit of that allows for a little bit more of that belief, of that new paradigm, perspective, whatever it is, to take up space. And when you do this a little bit at a little bit, that's where we notice sometimes these shifts, they don't happen overnight, but we look back and we see, oh wow, this was a tremendous amount of change has taken place in our own lives and then in a collective. And one of the beautiful things about science is, when people say things like, oh, I don't believe in that, like I believe in science, it's like science is a living, breathing organism. Science isn't fixed. And thank God science, we think that nobody here thinks that science is, we learned that's what it is. It's done. We're like, no way, nobody would want that to be the way that it is. So when people will say things like that, to remind them that science is constantly evolving, because as human consciousness expands, like I would say technology accelerates in tandem, but we have new goals, new levels of awareness. Now we need new tools. We have new tools. These tools, which are a reflection of, a fragment of, inspired by us, they can help assist us. So suddenly now we have a system or we have a tool that helps us prove this very thing that many people have been saying for thousands of years. Now that's proven to be true. And how so often things are being proven true that other people who, there's so many times people who would think like, no way, that can't be true. If you were telling them it's proven, they would still be like, really? What? It's like, it's a little, these little like mind blows. Little, like, your mind gets blown little like all the time with these things that are now being proven true. And that is what like next like 7 years and even longer is going to be a ton of that. And in order for us to be able to really take advantage of this, the more that we're able to suspend a little bit of judgment, it helps us be more, say, like ready or more prepared to start living in a way where we are taking advantage of what has always been available for us. I like to reference I forget when it was, but it was when the 4-minute mile was broken, running a 4-minute mile. That was before it was done. That was impossible, never could do, absolutely no way. Nobody could do it. Somebody did it within a month. I think, I'll just say it was 5. So like say like maybe 5 people or 6 people, they did it too. So it's like something that was impossible once, well, we knew it was true. Now all of a sudden we can all do that. It's like, it moves the needle forward. So how would we be living if we were more open to these things, these beliefs, these systems, these tools that a part of ourself understands? But there's that conscious part of ourself, that part of ourself that's a little bit more boxed off or has been conditioned. Just needs to believe in that a little bit more. If we were allowed for ourselves, we could do incredible things and feel a lot more liberated. And that's what I think we are experiencing right now as a collective, of just the unimaginable seems to be happening.
Yeah, that's really so true about your beliefs create your reality. This is what I share and teach and work with. That's why I love the work that I do, because there was this rhetoric that was your thoughts create your reality. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not your thoughts creating your reality, it's your beliefs. Because
Yeah. Your thoughts are come off of your beliefs.
and your thoughts, feelings. It's not that your feelings come from your thoughts. Your thoughts actually are coming from your feelings, and your thoughts perpetuate the feelings. But if we understand how the hierarchy of this all works, then we can really work with transforming the beliefs so that we can change the experience of our feelings, our emotions, our energy in motion, and then we can change our thought patterns, which allows us to live the fully realized life. And it's so beautiful to hear these references that I've been hearing for years and years about, as a collective we are improving, as a species we are running that 4-minute mile. My coach uses that example all the time, and I think it's such a good example because it's so tangible for most people. Because when we have such a good real world example of, like, yeah, the 4-minute mile, you saw somebody do it. And you can even look at a baby, for example. When a baby is learning to walk, we don't just say, oh, you're silly baby, you fell down, don't bother getting back up. We say, try again, keep going. This is the same as that 4-minute mile. And then when they did it, oh yeah, it's totally possible. And so we know that as we continue to improve and we keep figuring things out, we're always going to find a new way to integrate these non-possibilities into life. Because even the word impossible says, I'm possible. So everything is possible in this life. And I love that you're such a proponent of this. So thank you for sharing that absolute beauty. I want to take a little bit of time to just
we are
make
shifting
sure we
out of what
touch
I believe
on
is a more,
what are
say,
some of the
tribal,
things that
hierarchical
you
structure. I think if we think
particularly
of that even just in our own
help
life. So that could look like
as a
when
futurist?
we're a
What
kid, we
significant
have parents, they're the
shifts
boss. And
are you anticipating in this intersection? Like, I know you've just touched a bit on it, but let's go deeper. Do you anticipate the intersection of spirituality, digital innovation, and leadership over this next? That's what I'd love to know.
and
That
there's
intersection.
grandparents who are even there. Maybe we feel like they're the boss of our parents still in some way. Then we go to school and there's teachers, they're the boss, and there's the principal, and then they're the boss. And then we get a job, and it's this and it's that, and then now it's like as we're adults, we have the government, we have this and that, and there's always this higher control over us that the benefit of that could be that we know that at the end of the day, like, they're going to be there to help us. They're going to be able to support. They're offering some kind of assistance in that way. But and beyond the downside is we're feeling a lack of autonomy. We don't feel like we're sovereign. We don't feel like we're a fully expressed human. That is that hierarchy. And when we think of it in terms of leadership in a hierarchical scale of leadership, right, it could be that somebody's at the top, and they're giving some kind of an order. And by the time the order is given, people are following things. They don't even know who's the one that originally said this. So they don't even know why this is the way that I'm supposed to do something. And that is the system that we're kind of starting to see break a little bit. And when I discuss the idea that we're moving from this tribal hierarchical to more of dispersed, more of a web, which look more like empowerment from an individual, more of the radical, empowered individual. So in the future of leadership through there, I see that is like true leadership. It's conscious role modeling. It is not so much around, oh, I'm doing this because somebody told me to do this. I'm doing this. And I'm a living, breathing embodiment of what I believe to be right for me. And that is going to be an interesting thing. I see the idea of, hey, what's right for you is not right maybe for you, not right for maybe for you. It might be, but it might not be. It's up for you to actually learn yourself and figure out who it is that you are and what works for you and what does not. But as we shift out of this tribal, there's the component of like a beautiful energy within this like tribal dynamic. Like I said, can be the support and what might feel like the love and the community aspect, but there's not as much of a benefit for somebody to be an individual because it's not so much around like your needs are getting met based on kind of where the tribe might be. But as we're shifting out of that, it's more of now, who are you and what do you need as you? And through the space of you, now you can help others. It's this radical shift. And we're seeing, in a lot of different ways, we've seen people, there's this big learning curve that's happening with that of how dare you do that? The community needs that. Or how dare you do this? The community needs that. And this like kind of breaking loose. So if we view it from we zoom way out, we can see there's like, oh, there's beauty in that because there's this shift that's taking place. But for the future of leadership, it's for individuals to recognize, okay, how do I be a living, breathing embodiment of me, my values, but be able to respect somebody else's autonomy, respect their sovereignty. And when we looked at things like systems theory and how the business and everything is shifting in the future, I'm always like doing this because I feel like it's like we're bringing so many components together in new ways. And this is when we're seeing the technology like AI coming in at this really rapid pace, totally transforming the way in which we live, the way we work. Things do not need to be the way that they've always been simply because they've always been in. There's this space of innovation. But I believe that in order for these different experiences to feel more empowering is for individuals to be connected with themselves so that they can navigate uncertainty. And this is when we looked at things like your own personal energetics, your neuroscience, your all the different healing components that you're doing to bring all of this together so that you understand, like you understand you and you are able to navigate life as you. So the more that individuals looking to take on leadership roles, recognize that it begins with you. It absolutely begins with you. And if you look at it more from a sphere of, so like influence, right? The idea of being able to influence people, which is the energy of something about what that person's doing. Like, I'm going to look into that. That's incredibly powerful. If you look at the influence from a sphere of leadership, it's not necessarily about just, do people listen to you? Do they not listen to you? But what does that actually mean? Are you influencing people? And that is it's a much deeper resonance. So when we're fusing that then with foresight, looking at these shifts that are coming in and the affecting all areas of our life. We're having new financial systems and financial structures. New currencies, entirely new industries, and with the entirety of new industries and new currencies, there's certain things that naturally give way. They fall away to make space for the new. So to be able to navigate uncertainty, it's around connecting with yourself and being able to elevate your consciousness in a way where you can see a little bit larger than just the immediate here and now. If you look down too much, you might stumble, right? But if you're able to be connected, you can look outwards, being able to that form of being connected and being able to navigate uncertainty. I think that is something that is going to be a large point of discussion for this next decade here. But something else with the upcoming astrology that I find so interesting is over these next few years, we have Pluto in Aquarius. It'll be forming a trine to Uranus in Gemini. So that's a very favorable energy. So I think this is going to be a time when we see how these energies of transformation and this like what can seem like this acceleration of technology can come in really beautiful ways. And then we also will be having Jupiter moving into Cancer, which Cancer represents more of it's the emotional body. So this is something that one of the things I'm so passionate about is being people recognize how to collaborate with these accelerating technologies to amplify your humanness. Just as when the Industrial Revolution came through, all of these products were made much quicker. So the human element, if it was a table that was made by a human, it was sturdier, it's more valuable. It was more of a worth, more worth to it. The value was deemed to be higher. We are going to see that in the same way when we have artificial intelligence, AI, now being this new revolution, this AI revolution. Everything can be done quicker, faster. Information can be recalled in lightning speed. What people are going to feel this energy of, well, technology can do all this better than me, then what am I even doing here? What am I even doing here? Is, oh, well, you need your humanity, your humanness, collaborating with technology in ways to amplify your humanness, your compassion, your empathy, your creativity, your storytelling. And that is what helps people build the connections, these new connections that are going to be more like these quantum relationships that are these connections at a higher sphere, not just in this immediate, okay, this person's in my life because I need to get this need met and they're able to do it in this way. That's very transactional. So to this quantum level is this whole sphere of elevation. So how do you view the world and everyone and everything at a higher level? Knowing that when you do that, it's like everything kind of like the road rises up to meet you. But it begins with your individuality, but recognizing that your individuality is a reflection, of everybody else's individuality too. And this is something that I imagine, be another key discussion now for coming years is how to be yourself and be okay with everyone being themselves too.
I think it's so interesting that we can have I like to call them like a tower moment, and like a tarot cards where you think about the
Uh-huh.
tower and crumbling, and even how you said at the beginning about, um, just letting everything crumble and fall apart, not just redoing the tiles, just taking down the whole house. That, we need some restructuring sometimes. And I think the forest analogy, like when a forest burns, the fertile soil that is left behind from the ashes, the beautiful new growth can come from that. And I think it's such an interesting, I'll say, like 3D perspective, because I always move between the dimensions of my perspectives, but like that you touched on it so clearly. And I think a lot of people who will tap into this will be on very different frequencies, which is also beautiful. That the very 3D perception is that, we want to homogenize and we have to follow a hierarchical structure, and like, how do I get to be the own beautiful piece in this grand creation, and how do I express my individuality and that be like valuable and enough? And I think of it so often about, like, think about a jigsaw puzzle. If we had a jigsaw puzzle, every single piece is entirely different, unless it's like all one color or something, like, for example. But if it's one of those like 1,000-piece puzzles, each piece of that puzzle has a different print on the front of it. And it might even have different bumps that fit in. And together they make up this beautiful collective picture. But if all those pieces were the same, you wouldn't, one, it would be boring or one color. Two, you wouldn't know where the puzzle pieces fit. And it wouldn't be this beautiful collaborative effort that a puzzle is. And I really am always looking at things from a very different perspective. And I look forward to when more people are celebrating how beautiful our individuality is and how essential it is to bring that flavor, to bring that print, to bring that jigsaw piece to the table. And you were talking a lot about the hierarchical structures and now going to be more of a network. There's a word for this, and I don't think a lot of people know it, so I will share it. It's called heterarchy. And it means everybody has that playing field where not one is more important than the other, but everybody is valued. Everybody is, and it's not even like, it's like your part might need to come before this part, but it doesn't mean it's above it. It's just preceding this part because these pieces need to be done at different points, but my part is just as important as your part, which is just as important as your part. And I remember a couple of years ago, I gave a master class about manifestation demystified, because it's a very spiritual, scientific, but also like understanding how the process works. And it's this idea of moving into that whole systems approach. And I know we talked about this really briefly when you and I were chatting last week about taking the approach to understanding that each component is equally as important, because when a whole system works as a whole system, it doesn't want to attack other parts of the system because it realizes that every part is essential for the system to function. And so it just, the way you've shared it, it gives so much food for thought and so many different entry points and so many different layers and levels of that perspective. So thank you for bringing those pieces together for us. That's really,
Thank
really
you.
beautiful.
I love the way you have a fantastic job of taking what somebody else says and then synthesizing it and then putting it back. Cause I'm like, yes, that's what, yes, that's what I was trying to say, which is fantastic, which is, you're able to like cut through the BS really quickly, which is beautiful. It's beautiful. Boop, here it is. It's beautiful. And I'll say something else is, it's so important to recognize when it comes to this collective tapestry, right? The idea of all of our unique little pieces. It's so important then that you are you for a reason. You are you for a reason. And also when people, like a big part of my journey then has been recognizing, okay, like, okay, I'm unique. Okay, I got this, but how do I make it work for me? And then how did like not making, when I wasn't embracing who I was, it felt like bad things would happen. So now it's like, I got more to work through. I've had to get to a space to recognize all of those experiences. They forged me even more. because it was more of when
Mm.
when you feel like you have the tower moments in your life, and maybe, you demolish certain things in your life or think are demolished, whether it's you, whether it's somebody else, there's this demolishing that happens. You see, like, what are these nudges, this design, this color, this is like, that is ever present, that still comes through. So you recognize that those are the parts of yourself that cannot be destroyed. No tower moment can destroy that. Oh, now we're talking soul. Now you are being synthesized, right? You are being into like who you are without the fluff, without the noise. So now it's like you fit even
Yes.
more, you fit even better in there. And also then you have the amplification of certain those beautiful human qualities, the empathy, the being able to connect, the being able to see yourself in somebody else's story and experience. And all of those are incredibly, incredibly valuable traits as a human, as a leader, just as a soul having this human experience during this time. So the more that people are able just to allow, like, just embrace embrace all of you, and embrace the differences that other people have, because you don't need for everybody else to be like you. There's this belief that people can have, but thinking, if everybody thought like me, the world would be a better place. Now, that's rarely ever the case. I don't think that would be, right? We don't need everybody to all think the same way all the time. It's because somebody else, they bring something different. And by them bringing something different, it bounces this energy off of you, and then it helps you learn more of who it is that you are, but then you also now learn something new. And it's just how this whole system works together then. It's just the whole systems approach is how we're recognizing that nature already does that. And that's how we're intended to live.
Nature. And
There's-
once we remember nature, then we go, oh, we're silly for thinking that we were anything but nature.
yeah,
And
uh-huh,
it's
absolutely.
even technology, like again, I come from a oneness perspective. So even when people are like, oh, but it's technology, it's not natural. And I'm like, it's an element. Everything is nature. We are
Mhm,
all nature. Everything is nature because
mhm,
everything is energy. And so
mhm,
it's so beautiful to have all these wonderful entry points, perspectives, and none is right, none is wrong. That's the beautiful part too. Like you mentioned this earlier, and in yoga we call it the dharma, your right path of rightness. But it's like
mhm.
you can have a right way, and and Oprah's given out all the right ways. You can all have your own right way, and everybody gets to have their own right way, and we celebrate that.
Mm, mhm,
Mm,
mhm. We're in for a very
yeah,
im- st- I always wonder if every generation that is born here and goes through this human experience, if they all think I'm born at the most interesting time. But I
I think so.
I think they probably always do. And I think I love that. So I've always say that with keeping that in mind. But I really feel like this is a very transformative period for
Yeah,
just in so many ways of
absolutely.
individual us for people individually, then as a society. And next year we have so we had Pluto change signs, and then we'll have every other planet is also changing signs in 2025. So it's like this massive, just like changing of the guard, massive page turn, new chapter, new story. So making sure that we all are intentional in the story that we are writing. And as you said, the idea like we're manifesting, it's our beliefs, and believe that it's absolutely our beliefs create our reality, but then it's our being attracts our life. So recognizing where you feel that resistance, and in that, or it could even be you have a belief of one thing, but you want something else. So how do you rectify that? How do you allow for these parts of yourself? Maybe you don't have to be button heads anymore. Maybe it is. It's like I said, it's this. It's one gets to just kind of go over, and you saw that it doesn't have to be maybe about changing of some component of yourself. It's recognizing that maybe that belief it served a purpose. It was valuable for you in some way, because maybe in so many ways that you don't understand. Maybe, people talk about it in the idea of, oh, it kept you safe when you were younger, but maybe also you needed to have that and work it and be unable to work it out so that it would allow for something that's coming to line up, right? Because again, that whole systems approach, there's other people in this story as well. Something else had to line up for you to be able to catch that ride right at the right moment, and now you're there. But had you gone too early, you would have kept missing it. So again, it's the trusting that even if you think it was a mistake or you did something that messed up, or no. What if there's a part of yourself that gives you the grace to, okay, I'll let you, okay, I'll give you this to play with for a little bit, keeping you busy, but it will not let you actually miss that step. It might even let you have the grief of letting you feel like you did that, so that again, it will keep you. Now you're learning new skills, you're learning, you're bringing new systems to life, you're doing these integrations but when that time comes, that higher component of yourself will not let you miss that step. And I think that's where we're at right now. We all had to have this priming. We all had this like forged by fire so that we can do what it is we're here to do. And so much of it is what is right now. So I think that brings it back to what we discussed at the beginning. That's surrender. Surrendering to that is something that I feel okay with. If I can trust that ultimate surrender, that there, I didn't just get lost in the sauce of life, that there's an intentionality still, and that there's still a story being written, and there absolutely is.
And I love to say, what is meant for you will never miss you. And if it missed you, it wasn't meant. And so there's no worry. And even one of my dear yogi friends, she's also a channel. And one time we were having a session together and she was channeling for me. And she gave me a beautiful analogy that I love to share. That even if you missed the turn, even if you missed something, life is like, you can think of it like around the roads and a roundabout. That's okay. You'll just go around the roundabout again and get off on the second time. It's not like you can really miss it. So even if you think there's like that perception that you missed it, when you can change your perception, you literally get to change your reality, because your perception is what is part of that belief structure. And so when we can stay in the positive regard, not saying toxic positivity, like you can't feel the feels. In fact, that would be spiritually bypassing, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to like circumvent the hard things. And also when we think of something that's been challenging or difficult, it doesn't mean we're going to draw that into us. This is a little bit of a misconception of how the law of attraction and manifestation works. But when we can understand that actually when we are able to, with intention, and this part's super key, with intention, witness the difficult emotions, witness the challenging experience, not just having those thoughts come up and panicking and going off on a spiral, but with intention, sitting with the challenges, facing them, learning from them, even facing the worst case scenario, and then going, oh, I guess it's not so bad. If I can witness it, I'm literally bringing it into the present moment, meaning it's happening now for me in this somatic lived experience, and then I can let it move through me, and then I can reapproach it with a different perspective, because now I've lived that experience. Even though it didn't need to manifest in the physical reality, I brought it into the intentional space of living. And then we can choose what we do prefer and stay in the positive regard. So even though we had that challenging experience, if I go, but I learned from it. Oh, but I took this part from it. Oh, but that little piece in it allowed me to realize something else about myself. Now we can move forward with more intentionality and really co-create the life that we desire. Because I believe that we're always absolutely co-creating, And what are we co-creating with? The divine. And anybody else that has that connection with us that comes in, that is also agreed to be a co-participant in this part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So beautiful.
I want to know things about you. So you said that as a leader, you're forging and anchoring into this safety even in your body, and that you created that for yourself. I really want to know, what personal practices or routines do you use to stay aligned with your purpose and maintain your energetic balance in your life and in your work? And maybe they're different, maybe they're together.
Mm-hmm. So I'll do a tap. I'll do a lot of tapping, and people do the tapping on the different parts of the body. But I'll even just I'll find myself just doing that, just like small little things, small little ways throughout the day of just it's a little way for me just to bring a little bit of awareness, just like back to my body. Because if you've been somebody that you maybe have, there's more of these habits that you have just being up here, but bring is a little bit of awareness, or when I can feel any kind of tension in my body, it's like just bringing awareness there and just breathing into it. Sometimes these systems, we can overcomplicate things, and this overcomplication can create almost this barrier of like, well, it's too late for me to start meditating, I don't want to go, or like, oh, I have to go to a 3-week retreat to learn how to meditate. Who's got the time? Meditation can something simple, right? It's meet yourself where you're at and allow for yourself to figure out what is best for you. There's some people that they swear by their 30-minute meditation sessions a day. Fantastic. Some people, it creates more anxiety the thought of even doing that for them. So, okay, well, that's probably, it's probably not the right thing for you. So what is it that works for you? For other people, right? It's people like love gardening. They'll love gardening. If you think around gardening, and so it's like you have your hands physically in the dirt, in the earth. You're doing something that's grounding, but it's all about those lower chakras are being grounded. It's just finding out what works for you. So with me, I'll do tapping. I will meditate. I also work out. I'll make sure I go for a run a couple times a week. That helps me, because I find that when my body is in motion, it's like my thoughts, they dissipate. And then the thoughts that are still there, then I'm like, oh, okay, it's a similar moment of like that tower moment. What is standing? Okay, that's obviously something that is, it's more of something that is to be dealt with, or needs to be addressed, or is something that's unchanging. So I'll do that. And so the main things that I will do, I just about keep myself grounded. And I'll say, ever since like I have my dog, it's like I love my dog so much, but it's like everything about him. But I also recognize it's like when I am like cuddling my big dog, it's like, oh, there's this connection that that I have, and that immediately it grounds me and it connects me with all of me. I feel in that moment, and it's like this somatic. It feels like hugging my dog is this somatic experience for me. And those are the main things that I do. It's nothing that is really over the top. It's simple ways that allow for me to connect, just to connect and take a moment with myself. And then once I reconnect, then I check in with like, what is my intention now? And then moving from a space of intention when I've already been connected is a game changer for me.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. Yeah. And intention, I used to say intention is everything. And then I was like, but it's not. It's so good. It's a big part of it, though.
Part
When
of
when
it.
we start intention, because where we place our attention, that's where we're placing our focus. So where our
Mhm.
attention goes, our energy flows.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
with have an intention, we can place our attention there. So that's where the energy can flow. And
Mhm.
that is so, so powerful. And I'll just touch on this for a minute in case anybody's like listening, watching, here, however they're absorbing this information. An intention can be so simple as to say an I am statement like I am present or I am grounded. It could be something more questionable, like what is the next step for me? Or what am I meant to get out of this? Or what is my purpose in blah, 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 like fill in the blank. An intention can also be a little bit more easygoing, and it can be more of a desire that we place into the universe. And we say something like, I really want to up level my health. Okay, cool. What does health mean for you? Get clear on that. And then start taking, and why we have an intention is so that we can take action in the direction of our intention. So if you have an intention, it's great to state it. Absolutely. Because our words are vibration, and our tongue is like a magic wand, and we are spelling it all out. That's why they call it spelling. It is casting a spell into the universe. So use your tongue, use your pen, whatever you want to use to vibrate that energy. But then you also must take the aligned action steps in order to actually manifest your desired intention. So I like to drop in these little pieces in case people who are tuning in, they're like, well, I don't know what's an intention. And to make them powerful, we make them present tense, we make them personal, and we make them powerful so that they give us the meaning and that resonance with it. So think of the 3 P's: personal, present tense, and powerful.
Yes. Yes.
So then I would love to know what you said at the beginning that you have something called Kinda Kind. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
I would
Kind of,
love
kind
to
of.
know a little bit.
Yeah. I started kind of around, it's been a decade ago or so. First it was a website, and I was doing web series, and I had all of these different things I was doing. And I ended up just bringing it back into why am I doing this? And I have this community now, and just posting, creating this content all around kindness. 'Cause it is, I feel like kindness is, it's the most, I want to say it's underrated, because I don't think anybody like necessarily doesn't think kindness is important, but it is just so, it is so important. And the more that I evolved in my spiritual journey, I recognize that everything I do is always with that same intention. And I can connect back with like the little girl version of me. It's just like, be nice, like be very just nice, like what is nice, like the space of people being able to feel free, people feeling love, people being able to be who it is they am and feel empowered in space of who it is that they are. And it's just all of these things that I recognize now as my spiritual, as you know, these things that I teach, they can all be boiled down to this so simplified, like that frequency of kindness. And when I wanted just to, what can I do every day to just do a little bit of something? And I realized that I started doing it, putting out this content just because like, oh, it made me feel like nice to be able to like find these pieces. These are these kind acts that happened, either create a little story about it or create a little video about it and then put it out in the world. It was like this, I felt like it was like almost like a somatic like practice for me of like feeling good in my body, feeling good in this world, and then putting it out there, and then other people being like, hey, this is really great, this absolutely made my day, or this is something that old people will say things like, faith in humanity restored. And I'm like, oh wow, how I know people just say that, but if you really think about that, wow, how wonderful that all we need to just do is just be reminded of the beauty and the kindness that is everywhere, for us to have this massive perspective shift in the way in which we view the world, and we view our place in the world, and we view the idea that what we do matters. And I love it because it's something that's so simple, but it can seem so profound, and it makes you recognize that, oh, so oftentimes like the most profound things are deeply simple.
Thank you. Oh, that's so good. Um, so One of the questions that I like to ask basically everybody who comes on the show, and especially it seems this season, because I'm talking with a lot of soulpreneurs, way showers, visionaries, like these big picture thinkers. Um, how do you personally define success now? And how has that definition evolved as you've grown?
Mm. I define success now as the ability to feel free, to feel free and to feel full, free and full. So this space of like wholeness, there'll be a wholeness, is wholeness and being free to express. We think around always like, what does it mean to feel free? It ultimately comes down to this. I don't want to be bound by this. I don't want to be bound by that. Well, if you're bound by this, what can you not do? And all of these things that you can't do, it ends up coming back to this conversion of I want to be able to express. I want to be able to express. I want to be able to shine my light. I want to be able to freely shine my light. And while doing that, feel like, more is shining all around me. And I realized as I have grown and as I have my spiritual journeys, recognizing that that is something that is always around us. And instead of trying so hard to do things to get it, oftentimes it's recognizing what we are doing that is blocking it, how we're blocking it. And because we usually are, right? It's not so much around stepping into abundance. It's just like freeing yourself,
Wow.
allowing yourself, right? It's like letting yourself actually like so I think again it ties back into that theme of surrender. If you just like surrender to the abundance versus feel like no, I can't do that. I can't do that. It's like you're actually like fighting your way through things, thinking you need to get over there, and then you get over there, and then there's maybe something happens, and you're like, everything's ruined. It's like nothing's ruined. Nothing is ruined. Nothing is ruined. Everything was just trying to get you to recognize that you already have and already are all that you are and all that you want and everything that you're desiring to have you and to be, you already are. And you came in that way. And it's just this series of softening. So I think the energy of awakening is a series of softenings. And a large component I found is where are we blocking or where are we resisting abundance? Often it's maybe by a mask that we're wearing. Oh, if I let people know who I really am or how I really think or how I really do or how I really feel, I won't have anything. But in reality, that is something that is a form of resistance that you are embodying and you are creating this little bit of an energetic separation from the success that you want, or that realizing that you already are swimming in it. And that we have all of these, we have everything that we need. And it can be like a weird little pill to try to swallow and you recognize that, but we do. And so it's also the idea of then how can you change maybe some of your definitions of success, because it allows for you to view things in new ways, and you can still then get maybe those things that you, for example, if somebody's thinking like, oh, okay, I want a whole bunch of money. It's like, okay, well, why? Do you just want to know you have like a bank account with like millions of dollars in it? So then that's just like, so theoretically, that's just numbers on a screen. You just want to be able to have like a computer screen that tells you have a bunch, but you're never going to do anything with it. No. Okay. So what are you going to do with it? What is it? Or what is the feeling that you're going to have from it? Having an awareness of those. And then you recognize that you can embody that in little ways. And once you're familiarizing yourself with that energy, it's no longer this far out concept. You're embodying it in little ways. And then it's almost as if by these little ways, these little forms of resistance, they begin to dissolve. They begin to dissolve. And you now are feeling more comfortable, more secure with your place in the world, with who it is you are. And then that naturally attracts people and opportunities to you that you actually feel aligned with, versus opportunities where you may think on this like earthly level that you'll like make a lot of money, but you won't be able to be who it is you are. You don't like doing it. There's a lot of like that's a lot of price that comes with that for something, which is like nothing, nothing is guaranteed in that way anyways. So it's just allowing for yourself to recognize where you are resisting and how can you dissolve that resistance that you have. And like we discussed earlier, sometimes those resistance, similar to those beliefs, maybe they served a purpose. They provided safety or some concept of yourself or something that was important for a certain phase, chapter in your life. But to be here now and to be wanting new things and to be feeling about things differently and to feel more evolved and whole as a human, I'll say it's a very high likelihood that you are now ready for something new and something bigger. And it's just around the idea of releasing some of that resistance and letting it dissolve. And that's again, that surrender. Surrender's really been a big theme of this conversation today, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a very important thing. Okay, so then if success now for you is defined as freedom, and you define success now as that feeling of freedom and ability to express yourself,
Mhm.
what
Mhm.
was success for
So that's before I thought I needed to have things look a certain way. It needed to look a certain way. I needed to be able to be taken seriously. I needed to, but I don't know by who, right? That was the thought. I needed to be able to be taken seriously and be seen as a success in the eyes of others. So I was really viewing it through this certain paradigm of basically the paradigm of what it was that I like where I grew up in, but I had an awareness at a young age that wasn't real. So we had this like, I didn't really have a full defined set of it, a set of a defined expression of what I thought success should look like. I just was viewing it more through the mental level of thinking things needed to be far, far, far different than what they were for me. So a lot of my growth and my success has come from recognizing, oh, everything's perfect. Everything is perfect. And it's only my reluctance to accept that everything is perfect. It kept me in like confined in this imperfect state because I wasn't able to be okay with things as they were, realizing that now that everything was guiding me, everything was teaching me, everything was bringing me into a space of wholeness. And now, so that I can realizing that that like bubble that I was in is the same bubble that I felt that I was in when I was when I was a kid and I had that stutter. I felt like it was like kind of like me amongst the world, not knowing how I fit in. So there was this kind of safety component of like keeping everything, keep everyone away, stay away, I'm figuring it out, stay away, I'm figuring it out, I'm figuring it out. But once I just dissolved that and let myself feel the things that I was feeling, things naturally began to shift.
you? Mm, so good. So
It's
good.
all freedom and the ability to express. That's free, just to be able to, and to be in your body, not have to plan and strategize. And it's not, that doesn't, to me, that doesn't feel like freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I can resonate with that on many layers and
Mhm.
I get it. Okay, so then in moments when doubt or uncertainty arises,
Mhm.
because the human experience, that's part of it. How do you trust yourself to make aligned decisions? And maybe even a step back from that is what is your definition of doubt? Because really, again, our beliefs are our definitions. So, what is doubt to you? And then when it comes up, how do you trust yourself to make decisions that are aligned?
Over the summer, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine around this, and I was relaying to her the idea that I realized the doubt that I currently have about certain components of my life is only because of things that didn't work out the way I thought that they should have worked out, but I realized that they only didn't work out the way I thought they should have worked out because I doubted myself. So it was like this doubt, creates more things for me to doubt myself from. Because I doubted myself here, this didn't go as planned. So now I doubt myself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this, that doesn't feel free at all. It's like this doubt loop. And from this space, though, of having data in this sense, right? The idea of when you feel you did like make a mistake or something didn't go as planned, you have data from that versus when you just turn away and you turn one direction, something works out, you're like, oh, okay, cool. But when you feel like you did make a mistake, you get this zoomed out full 360 view and you're like, you have data. What can I learn from this? How can I, okay. And for me, in these spheres now, when I will experience doubt, I recognize, huh, all of these times in my life, I had a deep inner knowing about something, but because my inner knowing wasn't understood by other people didn't see the things that I saw and I knew in my soul. I thought, well, who am I to know this? Who am I? Maybe I must be wrong, and I wasn't wrong. So I'm reminded back to those moments of as long as I have this like that knowing, that's good enough for me. And I also at the same time trust that I went through those experiences so that I could have that feeling of, like that thing of like doubt can be dissolved through, through a trust in yourself. Trust in yourself. And that's an important thing that people, I think, need to go through. Because it's one thing just to like learn something intellectually. It's like when somebody gives you a piece of advice, okay, good piece of advice, bop, bop, bop. You're like, oh, okay, noted. But it is until you go through it that you're like, oh my gosh, like you get it at a deep level that you understand what that means now, right? So it's all those experiences of recognizing I went through certain things where I did doubt myself, and because of that doubt, I now have this really deep trust in this connection that I have that is I feel like is this information, this source of information, this intel that I have, and that's like my intuition, that's my higher self. But it's through not trusting it that I learned to trust it. So now when I face doubt, I'm reminded of those. And also I will reflect on why this doubt is or where it's coming from, or maybe what role is it serving. Because I'm like, I am radically honest with myself when I'm trying to like pull a fast one on myself, right? Of like, no, don't do that because it won't work out. It's not even a worthwhile thing to do. Nothing's going to come from it. And I'm like, am I just saying that because like I just want to like be like quote unquote lazy tonight? So it's like, then just like figure out what that is, but why? Go a little bit deeper level. Is it just because I'm just tired and I really don't want to go, or is it because I feel like I should go, but I don't want to go? But it's like, or is there a fear in there? Well, okay, I'm afraid if I go to this thing, something will happen, and that's going to put me on this whole new thing where now it's like I have to do all of this stuff and I can't just be the person that does this anymore. So it's just being radically honest with yourself too. Is it actually doubt? Or is it a fear? But is that fear in resonance with your old or with your new? And just having this being radically honest with yourself, like calling yourself on like your own what seems like nonsense is it's supposed to say like self-love and radical responsibility will like solve like, all of your problems, but like being real with yourself and having that discipline with yourself too, just simply as have an awareness of the deeper nugget of wisdom beneath whatever it is, and recognizing where we are letting somebody else dictate our life versus taking radical responsibility and ownership over it, is having just an awareness of that. So if you're doubting yourself, why? You can look back at past experiences. You can get some data, some intel from there. And then if you still are think of like, well, what would be a core belief or experience or fear or anything that is on the side of do it or don't it? And you can get a little deeper there. And then you're just recognized you're coming into wholeness from yourself. And then once you're in this space of wholeness, you're able to cut through the noise, of like, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Typically the doubt is connected to fear. I'd say almost always, right? There's some fear. There's fear there. And fear is it's a way in which we are perceiving. There's a perception component there.
It's false evidence appearing real. F-E-A-R, fear. Evidence appearing real. It is a lens that the world through one of that is of doubt versus trust, because doubt is trusting just in the thing that we don't prefer. It's putting all of our trust in the thing that we don't prefer versus trust, putting our belief in the thing that we do prefer, which is having faith, which is the full assurance of the heart. So it's you could choose fear. They both require you to believe in something you cannot see or know to be true until it actually manifests in your physical reality. So you can place your trust, or you can place your trust in the thing that you do prefer, but either way, you're putting your trust somewhere. So I always say to people, it's a choice, and neither choice is right or wrong. They're just equally valid options, because even if you put your trust in the doubt, then hey, at least you'll learn you don't prefer that, and then you can take that data, like you just mentioned, and go in the opposite direction. And as a leader of leaders, and as a future visionary holder, I also know and understand and share with, and as I'm sure you do with your people as well, that you literally create in the now moment. So even when you create for the future, you're actually changing your past too, because everything is a ripple of time. It's interconnected. So you can think about the past, you can focus on the past and all the things that went wrong and all the things that are going, like, oh, it could turn out this way because of the past, or you could actually knock that off. I mean, again, it's an option, it's a valid choice. So if you want to go on that route, go ahead. However, I don't play so much in that realm anymore. As I go, I'm going to just face forward in the direction of where I do want to go. And I'm going to imagine all the things that could go right and play from that energy. And that's such an easier path forward. I mean, that path will work too, because you'll get more clarity on what you don't prefer. But this path is just more streamlined. And when we are holding a for the future, when we are visionaries, when we are way showers, when we are leaders, when we are guiding others to lead themselves and lead others, we want to make it the most simplest, easy, straightforward, shortcut. No more struggle. Struggle, again, valid option. I'm over it. Like, see you later.
Yeah, but just letting things be easy. And something else that came to my mind is when I think around doubt, when I think around having doubt, I will think it's the idea that I forget that I don't have to have a hand in I don't have to be the one that does all of the things. So if I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna go to this event. Okay, I can get myself there, but I trust that something good will happen. And not that everything has to be this like taxing experience. I have to go there. I have to orchestrate the whole thing. I have to create somebody to have, it's like, oh, so it's that immediate overwhelm, or it's that, you said, it's that connection with that difficulty, that viewing everything through the lens of the struggle has people be like, why even bother? I'm just going to watch TV because it's like, why? Yeah. Everything feels burdensome.
A very simple energetic shift on that is changing one word. The word have for the word get. I get this.
Yeah.
I to go to this event. I get to network. I get to blah. I get to anything versus I have. Because when you have to do something, it's this added, like, it doesn't feel like you're choosing it. It feels like somebody's choosing it for you. But when you realize everything is a choice, and your choice, even the way you feel is your choice. You can choose to feel good, or you can choose to feel not good. You can choose to make it a experience, or you can choose to make it a negative experience. But knowing that you always have the choice, and even not having a choice is still a choice, allows so much easier and more fun and flowing. And then we just get to play with the beautiful life that we have.
That would be like using that same analogy of if you're going to an event. It's go in with the perspective that these are all beautiful ingredients of things that like for experiences, that it's this idea of instead of having to go there and like solve a puzzle, instead it's just like you get to go to this and you get to trust and understanding that people respond to your energy, right? So if you go there with this, I don't want to be here, it's like that's what you're going to get more of versus this, okay, I'm here and I trust that this is wonderful and something great's going to come from it, and it typically does. Right? It's like the idea that we
So
get what we expect.
yes, and positive expectation with zero insistence to the outcome. We don't want to be
Yep.
attached to the outcome.
Nope.
We dissonance, and that if it didn't turn out the way that I insist upon, then something went wrong. When everything's always going right or better
Yeah.
than we can imagine.
There's not
Oh,
really like an
okay,
end, there's not like an end point, right? So it's everything is leading into something else. All we got to do is
the infinite now.
stay in, yeah, just stay in the now, and life is a trip. So staying in that, letting it be a trip. It's an adventure. It's a journey.
Yes, and it's not about the destination. The journey is the destination. It's
Mhm.
all about the whole process.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just so beautiful. So I think you mentioned actually a couple of these other questions in your answers about what it is to live fulfilling and satisfying life, and that you want to live a fulfilling life. Is
Mm.
that the same for you as being free, or is there more to it than that?
I think it's just another level of that. I think through the freedom to express comes the fulfillment, and to be able to feel like you to be who it is that you are without judging yourself is that judgment is a huge form of resistance, is a big block that keeps us from really in surrendering into the abundance and to allowing for that fulfillment to come in. So we'll say it's that freedom, that space of freedom, the energy of freedom. Freedom. Yeah, for me, I feel like the word freedom is really important to me. With freedom
Mm, yeah,
comes all things. That it's yeah, it's the energy of freedom.
makes sense. Even more so why why I was drawn to you, because freedom is one of my core values. It's
Mhm,
actually like my second top priority.
mhm,
Um, so
mhm,
that makes sense. And the other one is like so tied to it. It's spirituality, which I also refer
mhm,
to as magic, but
mhm,
those
mhm,
two, they
mhm,
so I
mhm. Yeah, to me, it's like it's freedom,
um
empowerment. It's empowerment. So I just say that freedom and empowerment for me to be empowered, to be, to do, to have, to express, and that comes from the freedom. So it's like the freedom to be empowered. I think the freedom and empowerment go hand in hand.
so good.
So it's like
Thank you for
unleashing
that.
yourself, taking your own chains off. You're like opening the gate. And then you see you already are, and you can have, and you can do, and you can be. That judgment component, I find, is a really big thing for many people.
If you could go back and talk to your younger self, what wisdom would you share?
That you are you for an important reason. So rather than focusing on all that you're not, embrace all that you are, and allow for yourself to express from that place. And people care about what it is that you have to share. And I would remind her that gifts are not even things that we keep for ourselves. Gifts are things that we give to others.
And if you could go forward and talk to your future self,
Mm.
what question would you ask of them?
Mm. Just be what I would ask her, like, if the same question. The funny thing is, it'd be the same question. It'd be like, what piece of wisdom would you would you give me? And I would trust that it would be exactly what it is that I would need to know. And I also trust that it would probably be something so similar to the advice that I would give my younger self, that she would tell me that very same thing, right? You see all those different timelines are collapsing in there, because when I was in that same time thinking all these different questions, and it would be around like, what do I need to do? How do I need to show up? How do I need to? And these are all the same questions that would be like the same things that I think like my younger self would ask me now. So to that version of myself, as I would remind her, it is okay, it is safe, it's great to be you, rather than focusing all that you're not. Embrace all that you are. You have a gift, and your gifts are for others and not just for yourself. So share your gifts from this space, and this is where you will feel empowered and free to be yourself. And it was an interesting little like nugget of like download I got right there, was that exactly, future self would probably say the same thing that I would give previous self.
I just want to, before I continue with the last few questions, I just want to take a moment to congratulate you for that, because uh, you got to have a moment where you connected with your future
Mhm.
self, and
Mhm.
that, congratulating that, honoring it. It needs that moment. So congratulations. How do you want to celebrate that?
I'm going to make sure I express a lot today. I express, and I just embody that. I embody that. It's true that we are our younger self, and we are our future self. We are all of those, the right here, right now. And we have that power from both of those sides, and all of the sides coming in to be able to empower us in this moment. It's like all we have is this now, and that this now moment is the bridge to the future, to the past. And we can change it all, but all in this now moment.
When you think, if people need a visual for that, think of the infinity sign.
Mhm.
Everything converges at a single point of here and now, and that is what the eternal infinite now is. So I love to give visuals, and again, distilling things down. I'm a teacher, that's what I do. So please, that moment, just think of the infinity symbol. That convergence point is beautiful.
So powerful. Mhm.
And then the final thoughts of, what final message or inspiration would, and I say final thoughts and I'm laughing at myself, and I need to like justify this, because even though it's the final thoughts, there's a few more things I'm going to ask you and play with you. So what final message or inspiration would you like to leave with the Heart's Home audience?
That you are you for a reason. You are you for an important reason. And all that you are is connection of all of your experiences, your gifts, your wisdom. All of these different things are bringing you into this point to where you are you, and you play such an important role in this collective tapestry, as we discussed, these different puzzle pieces, for you to figure out exactly where it is that you do fit. This is around embracing who it is that you are. And when you embody that, this is how you turn into this lighthouse where you naturally attract those people that are designed to be in your life, the people that are designed to amplify your gifts, your humanness, deepen your levels of security, your fulfillment. It all comes from a space of you. And for some people that can feel overwhelming, or they can think, well, if I don't even know who I am, or it's just take it moment by moment, but check in with, what are you resisting? What are you resisting? And what can you do to even just 1%? I can do that 1%, just lower that guard 1%, or surrender that piece of judgment, even just 1%. And that 1% might allow for, before another thought comes in that strengthens this one, maybe something comes in with a little bit of a higher frequency, and oh, that feels nice up here. So then more come in. And then this is how we are changing our reality moment to moment, moment to moment. And we do that enough times, it becomes our normal, our natural. And even when it can get challenging to not feel like, oh, I'm gonna this heavy weight is gonna come back in, you get to recognize that, oh, there's a choice though. You're making a choice to pick that back up. And it might just be that it's just a habit. It's just a habit, but you can form a new habit, right? A new habit. Something I did in the past when I was going through a breakup is before I would let myself go into like the spiral mind, or I was something, no, I have to go and make 5 pieces of content. And it seemed like a big number, but I enjoyed doing it. It's five pieces of content. And once I make those 5 pieces of content, then I am free to go wild. I can go do all of those thoughts, whatever it is I wanted to do, go crazy. And I found once I did those 5 pieces of content, I felt empowered. I felt I was in this really good space. And I had this visual of if I were to go do that, it would be like I was intentionally stepping off of this like high porch to go down into like the gutter of these thoughts. And I'd be choosing to do that, but I feel so good up here. So why would I do that? And that was a pretty big breakthrough moment for me, realizing that, oh, if I give myself a little bit of like that's that discipline. I have enough discipline because that's self-love to have a little parameter for myself. I have to do these things for myself. And then I will see that, oh, I like it better up here. I like it better up here. And from that space, I had more clarity around all of my experiences and the things, and recognizing how much I was doing just purely out of habits that were formed from beliefs that were not in alignment with who I feel I actually am, and certainly not with where I want to go.
Okay. And the time for a shameless plug. What are you
Okay.
working? What do you want to share? This is the non-humble brag, and I love to share this quote from the
Uh-huh.
Porta Potty Wisdom Shambhala Music Festival in Canada, in British Columbia. It said, "Bitch, why be humble? You are the universe." I will forever love that Porta Potty quote because it has such truth to it. So, non-humble brag, go.
I guess my humble brag is that when I know what it is I want and I let myself do it and get it, I can have whatever it is, that I want. I'm currently right now, I'm putting together plans to launch my podcast. And I know that once I do that, it will be really successful. So I just have a different resistance points with that of like, oh, what does that mean for me? All of that. But I feel like my brag is that I can get whatever it is that I I want. And a big part of the work I've done in the last few years is how can I allow for myself to keep, to maintain, to hold. And that's what that somatic work is. So in terms of the brags, I mean, I don't know. I've done a lot of interesting things, but I said again, I guess I feel like a lot of things I've done, I just kind of feel like they've just been these like interesting little funny side quests in my life that I'm looking forward now to like using that energy for like a more fulfilling main quest. But like I helped run a mayoral campaign. I was on reality TV. But I say these things, but I'm like, none of these things really felt like a deep resonance in my soul. Do kind something that was like really pretty big. It was getting a lot of traffic. But I recognize even like this definitions of success, where I was like, oh, but none of these things felt like a really deep calling or really deep like resonance in my soul of what it is that I want. I don't say bags. I don't really have a humble brag because I guess I don't feel there's been any. I feel I don't. It's just like my state of being, I guess. When I do know what it is I want, I can get it. But a big part of my journey has been how do I work within my energetics to be able to feel good about that and maintain them. So I feel like my journey is truly just beginning now because I've had the foresight and the mindset to attract, but not to align and embody.
Yeah, now it's all about the inspired and aligned action, baby.
I
I'm
feel
so
like
excited for you.
I feel like anything that's my humble brag would be my thinking about it's like, and that's fulfilling is my dog. I rescued my dog. He was an abused pit bull that was used for all kinds of very unkind things, and I healed that baby. And it's just a testament to, I think, what love can do. That now he's just this like big old love bug, but he was a terrified, really scared boy for many years. I think that's
That's
my
so
brag. It's my brag. I healed an abused pit bull, and it's probably my biggest accomplishment in life that
cute.
felt resonant to my soul of what I'm here to do.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Okay, so she's working on a podcast, people.
Yeah.
She
Yeah, I'm starting to give presentations. I'm starting to do public speaking now around the intersection of essentially it's the synergy between human and AI and how through our own self-optimization and then the alignment with technology, we can create this really good, beautiful, equitable, empowering kind future.
nice. And how can people connect with you and get in touch? I'll leave the links in the show notes, of course, but if you want to just tell
Ashley
the best way.
Mosaic. Yeah, Ashley Mosaic on all of the things, all of the social medias and ashleymosaic.com. And if you want the positivity on Instagram, it's kind, CO. You just put in kind, it'll come up. Kind co. Is we have a lot of just daily positivity and good news and just good vibes happening over there at the ready.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay. So now we're at the magical question because my vibe and I love the magic. What is the most magical or miraculous experience you've had in your life that you can think of at this moment? It doesn't have to be the ultimate other, but the one that is resonating now that reminded you of your infinite power and connection to the divine.
Okay. I was I used to travel with the auto shows and I would go around. They had me all the different cities. And I was in Indianapolis and I'm a little break. And in a corner of my eye, I saw this tiny little blue speck. And I was like, and I went down this alley and then next to this dumpster, there was this blue hummingbird, bright blue hummingbird, and its wing was all messed up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I picked up this hummingbird. I don't even know how I saw it. I still have no idea how I saw the hummingbird. Picked it up and I was walking around with it and I'm just petting it and petting it and I'm like calming it and I was walking around with this bird for a while. And then after about a half hour of just holding this hummingbird, it's like it naturally calmed down. And then I was looking at this hummingbird and it was looking back at me. And then I was like, I think it's okay now. So I kind of did this to fly and then it flew up and then it flew back onto me again. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I had this like just deep moment of this interconnectedness of all things and being a space of like comfort and then it went like this and then it flew off. And I love that memory so much because it was so like it was I don't even know how I would have saw it. It was like I saw this flash of blue and I went looking for this flash of blue and it was like I met the universe and the universe trusted me and the universe allowed for me to have this moment where I just felt so connected and I realized I felt really later on I realized I felt powerful, but I felt powerful in my softness. I felt powerful in that I was able to provide this energy and this space for a beautiful creature to return back to itself so it could fly away.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. Oh, so good. Okay, and now this is the ending game. It's called the cosmic baton. So
Okay.
each guest receives the imaginary cosmic baton. It's infused with their unique energy and wisdom. And at the end of the episode, the guest is asked to charge it with a blessing or an intention or an energetic gift for the next guest. And the new guest will begin their episode by metaphorically receiving that baton and sharing how the energy or intention resonates with them. So you are placing your intention or blessing or energetic gift into the baton for the cosmic baton to be passed on.
The intention would be to view yourself as your higher self and to be embodied with that right there. And it's like, pew. So I imagine
I
all of
love.
us were found.
Thank you. That's so, so beautiful. And that'll be so fun to pass that cosmic baton on. And I was just having a little moment of like, ooh, I get to benefit from all the cosmic baton passing because as the keeper of
Uh-huh.
the space, I'll get to hear them all and also be like, oh, I can play too. So
What was the last one?
to
What
be
was the last
honest,
one?
you are the
Okay,
first
perfect.
one game. But when I was thinking of this, because
Uh-huh.
I came up with this idea just recently, I've only had two other guests this season that I've recorded episodes with, and they left great advice. And as they were leaving that great advice, I was like, I want to play a game because I'm a playful human. So
Mhm.
um their I wish I could say that I remember their advice off the top of my head, but I don't. But as I was coming up with this game, I thought the first person that I play it with, they're going to want to have a piece of something. And so I was thinking about what I would put into that baton. And what I would put into that baton, my intention is and it's an intention. So it's that may this golden thread that we begin weaving with this baton be so beautifully, synchronistically, magically, miraculously interwoven through the threads of the cosmos to connect the soul tribe members who I know are meant to be connected through this podcast. And so that is my intention of this game.
Beautiful. I'm gonna tell you, and while you were sharing that, I had this deja vu moment.
Yes.
I was like, interesting. Yeah, I had that. Yeah.
Was the deja vu, tell me?
So it's very powerful. I was like, interesting. I was like, oh, I had like a deja vu. I was like, okay. I feel whenever I experience that, it's like a little, I feel like it's a little check-in point of some kind of there's those moments hold great significance.
Ah, do they ever? And
Mhm.
this resonates very much with my body. Like I was saying about the timelines and the dimensions and the parallel realities that we shift in. We're in such a heightened time of these shifts occurring. So
Mhm.
that you just said that is just another confirmation, affirmation of
Mhm.
the felt experience. So thank you
Mhm.
for that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Thank you.
I am so honored and so grateful to be connected with you. I am so humbled in the actual humbled sense, not the bitch be humble way, but the humbled sense that you took your time, your energy, and shared your wisdom and your knowledge with us here today, shared your story, shared your heart. It was truly felt, and I'm grateful for this
Thank
experience.
you. I'm so appreciative and grateful of you and for you having me on and sharing your wisdom and your time and your energy. When we spoke before, I said it's like soul food. It truly is. They're like soul food, and it's very enriching and get just I'm so grateful. And so just testament to the magic of the universe that our paths crossed because we live very far
On
from
purpose.
each other. Physically very far, right? So magical. And it also speaks in the power of our own humanness. Then when collaborating with technology, we really can elevate, and the world is so big, but yet can seem so small at the same time because of all our power that we have.
Absolutely. So I will just say to everybody here, if anything spoke to you, please, we would love for you to one, take a screenshot of it, share
Mhm.
it on your social, tag us both in it. In the show notes, you can find us. Tag the podcast, please. Heart.s.home. Please tag Ashley Mosaic, and also you can tag my personal account, Lizzie Namaste Plant Based, and let us know what resonated with you. Let us know what spoke to you. And we will reshare this because, again, the whole mission of Heart's Home is to connect the collective consciousness grid of people who are playing on this frequency to uplift the collective and to help you remember who you are, to bring you back to your heart's home. And it's been calling you, and you know the sound of your own tone. So when you're ready, pick up that phone and listen to the tone. It is with great honor that I've shared this time, space, and energy with all of you from my heart to yours. Namaste. And as always, peace out.